everyone, welcome back to the Zach GP channel, and in today's video, well, you could have guessed it from the title, and considering what happened about 12 hours ago now, it's weird to think it actually wasn't that long ago the race was. The Vegas Grand Prix has happened, and my oh my, I thought this race review was going to be very, very different. I'll give you a rundown of exactly how I thought it was going to go. I thought I was going to be talking about potentially a championship being done and dusted, and the race itself, it wasn't an incredible race. Obviously, we had Mexico and Brazil that were fantastic. I thought Vegas was still a half-decent race, but it very much settled down because it's the sad thing, isn't it? One stops, it just ends up with most people doing the same strategy and not a lot of variation. There was one variation I'll talk about later though, but I'm not even going to be talking about any of that now because we all know exactly what happened. And if you don't know, championship is wide open. Both McLarens double disqualified from the race, and it's the same thing we have been seeing, I say all season long, but it is the thing that's been happening. The skid wear, it's again, they just screwed up the car setup and they took too much damage to that part of the car. It's so interesting because I actually made a video after Bahrain talking about this, and I did think it was going to happen a couple more times throughout the season, but again, did I think it was going to be McLaren? Because all you're doing when you're pushing the car to that limit is eking as much performance as you can as possible. The funny thing is about it though, is the wear that you get from that change in the setup really doesn't affect it like anything at all really. So you don't get any real performance boosts and you get disqualified. It's incredible. Like I mentioned, it went from Norris being 42 points clear from Verstappen in the championship. Piastri 30 points behind, no longer in that race win distance that Lando needs to push out if he wants to get it before Abu Dhabi. And it's all back to square one, 24 points once again. Importantly, this time round with Verstappen, equal on points on Oscar Piastri. I'm sad to say this, Oscar Piastri fans, and to Oscar Piastri himself. I think this means Oscar Piastri is coming third in this championship. I don't think he doesn't have it in him anymore. And I guess this is really becoming not a race review of Vegas, but more of a what the hell is going to happen with F1, in the sense of, I really do think, and I do think Piastri would play the team game eventually if he was knocked out of it, eliminated. But I do think that's what's going to happen in Abu Dhabi, sadly, for Piastri. And that is such a sad way, I think, for the season to end if he's having to help Norris win the championship after everything those two drivers have thrown at each other. For that to be the way how it goes down, I'll be slightly sad. But I guess on a general fan point of view, this means it's going to Abu Dhabi unless Norris has the best ever weekend of his life in Qatar. He needs to win the race. Doesn't matter if he doesn't win the sprint, he needs to be in the top three for that, but he needs to win the race. So if he continues putting on these qualifying performances, he probably will do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that McLaren can do in Qatar, because I do think they'll be fastest. But we've seen Verstappen also is very fast at Qatar, and Verstappen can smell blood. He can smell that championship. He is so, so close to it. And just remember, everyone, for everyone out there, remember, it was about a 104-point gap. Now, on the scale of things, it looks, he's caught up 24 points, 80 points. That's absolutely incredible. Technically, he has caught up 80 points to the championship leader, but he has, which is an incredible stat, by the way, caught up those exact 104 points to Oscar Piastri, because they're equal on points now, and at the time it was Oscar Piastri who was leading by that much. How the hell has he managed to do that to Oscar Piastri? Max Verstappen, fork found in kitchen, the best driver on the grid right now in F1. Some would say if he goes and wins this 5th championship, and I agree actually, if he goes and wins this 5th championship this year, he is the best of all time. It doesn't even matter that he has a couple less than Hamilton and Schumacher for me. If he goes and wins this championship, absolutely incredible. But with that all said and done, let's actually talk a little bit about the race, because the race itself was, the first few laps were pretty good. Lap 1, obviously Norris went very, very aggressive into Verstappen, and it looked like he had it wrapped up. If Norris just kept his car there, but he missed his braking point and completely went off the track. I was like, what the hell is going on? That let Verstappen passed, and then eventually Russell passed, and it was game over for Norris from that point onwards for his chance to win the race, but he was still ahead of Piastri, so it wasn't it wasn't a worst case scenario for him at the end of the day. But what also we had was Stroll and Bortoletto having a collision, which I can't remember exactly how they showed it on the TV, but I don't think they showed it enough. And I was sort of thinking, because they kept on showing like Stroll not moving on the track layout where they've got the dots of colour, and I'm like, show me, where's Stroll? Because he just wasn't moving, but they weren't pulling out any virtual safety car or safety car. So it took them a little while to get to that, but yeah. Lap 1 antics, 100%. I'm not surprised. Low grip track. It was probably going to happen. Someone crashing into another driver. After lap 1, for the front of the race, until the pit stops came out, George Russell looked steady in second place. I think as soon as George Russell didn't put up a fight against Verstappen, when he went for that massive undercut, putting on the hard tyres a lot earlier than the rest of Verstappen, even Norris, it was donezo for him because he didn't get ahead of Verstappen. If he was able to get ahead of Verstappen, you never know, because we saw with Antonelli, who I really want to talk about soon, that it was doable to keep someone behind you, even on worse tyres. But when that happened, he pushed too much, and then Norris was able to get past him for second place. Then further back, we had Antonelli, who had started so far down the grid, bear in mind. He managed to get fourth after the pit stops, doing a massive, really weird strategy, going softs to hard and just egging it on when he had that clean air, and it completely worked. I think Hamilton also had a good recovery drive, but that was as much as they could do with that strategy. Antonelli then showed what everyone could have done with the clean air. So huge well done to Antonelli. He did, but after the disqualifications, it means he actually got another podium this season. And if you had watched about everything you need to know about Vegas, not only do we have Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, 24 points within each other, keep an eye out on Hamilton and Antonelli. That now means Antonelli gained 15 points, shrunk between him and Hamilton, meaning the gap is less than 20 points between those two. Antonelli could realistically finish ahead of Hamilton this season, and I think that would be really, really bad for Hamilton if that happens. 7-time world champion, I don't think it will affect his ego. I don't think he really cares that much about how he ends this season right now. It's done and dusted for him. But for Antonelli, that would be a massive ego boost and brilliant coming into 2026, where I do think Mercedes will be quite fast, so you kind of want to have a good confidence boost heading into that, when I think at least in 2026 Mercedes will be podium contenders, so they'll be getting a lot more of them next year. But then after that, it really was the disqualification that was the big shock, because Verstappen, Norris, Russell, pretty bog standard podium these days. Not surprised with that. You had a couple of the midfield drivers like Sainz, who had a good race. Hadjar, who was behind him as well. Behrman, surprisingly, it was all right, but I was hoping for a little bit more from Behrman. It was a shame to see it just wasn't the right strategy again. I think the most annoying midfield driver had to have been Alonso. It just did not work out for him, and he just lost so many places this race. But then after the DSQs, it ended up meaning that the likes of Hadjar and Sainz moved up to 5th and 6th. So Sainz in that Williams, charging through the field right now in the standings. He is looking so good at the end of this season. Maybe that's all the time he needed to get used to the Williams, and I'm loving seeing him do well. Again, I love Carlos Sainz as a driver. I think he's brilliant. I still miss Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Imagine if Carlos Sainz was in the McLaren this season. We're going back quite a few transfers now from, him not going to Ferrari or Williams. But I do think it would have been very interesting to see what Sainz could have done in that McLaren. If he could have fought for the championship, I definitely think so. But the race itself, that about wraps it up. I think Vegas was suffering from success in the sense of off-track elements. The championship, the disqualifications, Hamilton, Antonelli standings, all of this stuff is very interesting because of the race, but the actual race itself wasn't amazing. Do I think it was dreadful? No. And for me, in the rankings, I'm going to give it a 6.5. I do think it had its moments, it had its flares, but just like a lot of one-stop races, which we won't be seeing in Qatar, so we'll see how that all pans out with those new rules, it suffers from people just not being able to get past, really, because it was a massive defensive masterclass from Antonelli, but you just couldn't get past at certain points. It was a little bit frustrating to watch. But anyway, comment down below, what did you think of the Vegas Grand Prix? Do you agree with me where it was one of those races where the race itself wasn't amazing, but the outcome of the race makes the season very, very interesting? So it's sort of, you weigh it up. It's hard to tell with these races, because when I'm thinking about all of that stuff, it does make it interesting. But I won't be biased and say, oh, the racing was brilliant, because the racing wasn't that great. But yeah. Comment down below, can Norris hold on to this championship? I mean, if McLaren keeps setting up that car like that, I mean, he almost didn't even he had issues at the end as well, my oh my. Maybe that would have been less hurtful. Imagine if he had the DNF instead of the DSQ. I don't know, both would have been just as painful, but insane to see him in those interviews looking so happy. I think he knew he had it in the bag, the championship, after that race, and now he doesn't. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. As per usual, thank you for watching these sorts of videos. A very laid back race review for me right now, because technically I am back from Leeds, but as you can see, I'm not fully back yet. So not a lot of time to get this done. But thank you all so much for watching. It's ram-packed F1 action coming up. I'll have a video out on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Fan Amp on Monday, and then again for the week, because we got back-to-back races coming up, baby. I'm so excited. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care, everyone.